Pawan Gupta is the quintessential Indian startup story. Not only was he born in Ranchi, Jharkhand, where he overcame the odds to essentially make it a Y Combinator in MIT Sloan, but he's the founder of Betterhalf.ai, which boasts most recently of close to 1 million verified users, 2 million matches, and of course, 5 million in funding. I caught up with Pawan and I had a great time just picking at his brain, seeing how he operates, how he works, and how he perceives the better half experience and opportunity. Welcome, Pawan. Thank you so much for doing this. Really appreciate you taking the time, right? I mean, especially during your busy schedule, you've had a lot of great things to talk about, a lot of fun things happening on the Better Half front, your funding round and many things included, which we'll get to. So appreciate you kind of taking the time to do this. It means a lot.
I think it's other way as well. So thanks for sharing story about your startup. And especially, we are both are taking time away in a weekend. So I think I'm very excited about this conversation.
No. Of course, it's. I think the age of better half now and for many years and eons to come, hopefully. So we'll kind of get into that. But before that, Pawan, you're the textbook quintessential kind of success story, right? That every kind of young boy and girl in the hinterland as well as in the city kind of looks to kind of get to, right? You started off, from in Ranchi, went to BIT, kind of started your own startup essentially in that setting. Had a lot of learnings essentially. Went and you taught as well. From what I've been told, you taught middle school and things like that. So walk me through some of those experiences and it's why that's an especially good story is because you're not from the usual boring kind of Bombay, Delhi, Bangalore quintessential kind of cities, right? That everyone is from in this space. You've kind of broken that glass ceiling, so to speak. So there lies a very important and a very interesting story. So I'd love to hear it straight from the horse's mouth, so to speak.
Okay, I think good that you touched upon this aspect. I think it has to do with resilience. I think over time, what I fundamentally believe that whatever choices that we're making, it's actually not chance, but actually it's the choice that you have done. And in my early I think childhood and my especially formative years in school, I used to think, hey, some of the folks are going to IIT, maybe it's chance. And then over time, I thought I probably Swiss the gears, okay, from chance to choice. And look, it's not just me, right? Many people have gone to tier 2, cities and schools. So, it's not just my story, but I think what happened, I was very studious, for a long period of my schooling. And then, obviously, IIT, yes, I did qualify for screening, but didn't qualify for mains then. But then anyways, I had a chance to, go to BIT. And at that time, after a year, I started not liking the academics. And I was like, something is missing. And over time, I was switching to kind of the startup mode. And some of the people really inspired at that point. And this was a time. So I felt that the academics was not just restricted to, your, just subjects and marks and this. There has to be holistic view. And that's how, we started teaching in the schools around. It eventually led to a software product, for schools. To focus and measure the non-academic strengths of students. So we did that. And in fact, my first startup was also in Ranchi. I think overall it was good 2.5, 3 years. Yes, it was a long, arduous journey, to do. We had a small, maybe 5-8 people team, we were running neck on neck and thin margins. But I think we just jumped into this rather than thinking too much and planning too much on theory. We just jump right there and then learn on the way.
Yeah, like you said, I feel like entrepreneurship is a fine balance, right? You have to know what you're doing. You have to be able to study the numbers, like we discussed earlier. You need to know the TAM. You need to know those basic KPIs and metrics. But too much information sometimes it kind of works in the wrong direction also, right? So it's good to take that leap of faith. And I'm sure there's a lot of learnings that you had as a result of those leaps of faith, right? And it's not just one leap of faith. As an entrepreneur, it's every single day there's some challenge and there's a leap of faith with regard to that as well. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think so. You touched upon this, right? So I think my view is, sometimes we overthink, right? Just
Yeah.
doing way more research and then market share in time. Uh, I have a very different view on this. I would advise people not to do it, especially when they're starting up. Uh, and this is something we learned, from our recent experience at Y Combinator, which is, look, if you see that there's a fundamental problem with a particular set of users, it could be consumers, it could be enterprise. Go and solve it well. It's better to have 100 customers who love you than having millions of users or customers who just like you. And actually, almost 99% or so companies fall in the second part, because you see numbers, but actually those numbers are not really, uh, you know, it's not repeatable. It doesn't scale, right? And then you have this virtual inflated, valuation that actually comes in. So even, I would say any entrepreneur, when you're starting up, good start is focus on what are the core problems. Do you really understand that so well that possibly no one else does? And then you have some key execution that's going in place, because later on you can always increase the market size. And don't really start because, hey, you'll be able to raise funds from VCs. I've not really seen companies really, something that started anybody who started the companies for VCs typically didn't really succeed, or we don't have such great examples so far.
Yeah, no, for sure. You kind of hit the nail on the head, right? I mean, there's a lot of vanity metrics that go around that people like to kind of optimize towards, but they don't get to what the core target or the core proposition or the core problem is that they're solving for. So like you correctly said, I'm guessing a lot of these learnings, like you correctly said, figure out the 100 people that love you versus the million that kind of like you. That those kind of differentiated factors, does that come from a YC setting? Is that some of the stuff you learn? Can you talk to us
So we
about that?
used to think about that, and
Yeah,
obviously we do think, after serving if not 7 lakh users at Betterhalf,
yeah,
I think we do think, there are users who love us. We're doing about 1,500 marriages a month today, right? If you just
wow,
look at our numbers of connections, it has just crossed 2.25 lakhs people, who these are the connections that's happening on Betterhalf, and these numbers were about 30K or 40K about 1 year back. So it just grew pretty
wow,
fast, on this. And we know a year from now, a lot of marriage is something, we'll be driving, because we see the numbers now. And it takes about a year from the time you get matched, by the time you get married. Look, what I think is numbers are super important, right? Understanding of users, look, if it's a very small market to go after, yes, it's fine. You'll still run a small business. That's okay. We have a huge respect for those. I was in the restaurant owners, right? They're happy, they have their families, and those are lakhs of those entrepreneurs out there. Okay, my view is, if you understand that how this would go, or let's see, one way is your current size of your market or this user is so large that you don't have to drastically change the product. So that's kind of a most efficient way that the same product can scale. But what we have also seen over time, that if you have certain adjacent markets, it's not too much to worry about, right? It's something that, okay, your core product serves a small niche really well, but either you can sell more and more products to them, or adjacent products could be actually launched within the same product and same platform. So we see a small thing can become very large, if you plan. So I think the core has to be very strong, and that understanding is something I'm talking about.
no, yeah, that's great. Like you said, you set out solving for one thing, and then the opportunities kind of present themselves where you have
It is.
adjacencies that you can explore,
You
and
should
then kind of
know, right? As an entrepreneur, I think what you touched upon, it's something you should know. But I would say in the early years, especially till Series A or something, do not fret
yeah,
over those numbers too much.
yeah,
Just
no, for
focus on
sure.
the founding team, the product, the early traction, why they're using, and the current set of users. Can they bring more and more set of users? How at least you should have, if this fundamental, which many people call it as product market fit, I think you should
Yeah.
always just focus in the early stage, okay, about this.
Right. No, like you said, and rightly so, right? Make sure you don't delve away from the fundamentals, but don't get bogged down by, too much information. But there's a great deal of learning. Go ahead. Sorry.
Look, so I think Vidit mentioned actually this, and so YC had a summit actually a week before, and I think they mentioned, look, when you go to investors, right,
Hmm.
don't really seek a product validation from them. It's more of an investment validation. Okay, so these
Yeah.
are, you have to really separate these two things, right? You're not building the product for investors. Remember that, and neither investors want you to build for them. They are in business of investing and growing money. And yes, entrepreneurs should partner with them. We do partner with them. I wish we would run the company like Zerodha and Nitin. This is one of the most credible founders country has ever got. These are something, and we hope to have more and more that company thinks about profitability. I would say just focus on product validation and how it's actually picking up, and are you really solving a core need really, really well? That's probably it's going to be very hard for anybody to catch up. These are something that's fundamentals. At some point, when you want to solve a finance problems, yes, there could be VCs, and lately the ecosystem has been changing good for entrepreneurs. They're becoming faster. On this, I used to see like 3, 4, years back, they would take months to decide. Now they decide in weeks, and they're also serious about this. So that's good. But look, finance, what I understand, it's only a 5% of the problem. Your 95% of the problem is actually remains what happens after that.
Yeah, no, correct. You kind of hit the nail on the head, right? I guess turnaround time is significantly shorter for VCs just by virtue of the critical mass that's out there, right? On the supply side as well as the demand side. There's enough startups, bankable startups that have gone to market, and enough kind of VCs as well chasing them. So that's a good segue. So there are extremely bankable startups that have gone to market, and then there's enough kind of capital there, pools of capital that are willing to be patient, just from an ROCE standpoint. So it's a good time to be in this space. And that kind of is a good segue for this question that I had. Seeing as you've pitched to so many venture capitalists, you've kind of run the rigors of essentially you're obviously solving for your product, but small way you also have to kind of solve and optimize for VCs, right? So does in many cases, obviously the product speaks for itself, and Betterhalf is kind of testament to that. But in many cases, a lot of startups very heavily lean on the tier one kind of pedigree that startup founders come from, such as yourself, right? MIT Sloan on your resume goes a huge long way, right? So do you feel like some of your learnings at MIT helped kind of pitch to investors to speak their language, or do you feel like it's serendipity, right? It's a bit of both.
Okay, so first of all, I think let me give you a data. Okay, so
Yeah.
there are rarely few MBAs. Number one, within Betterhalf, it's about 85 people, and it could be very hard, right, for a business person to work with techies. And Betterhalf in general is a very techie, product driven. So both founders, Rahul and I, we breathe tech, we breathe product, we breathe design, we breathe QA, and we'll always talk about that. We don't talk about business so much, right? We said, okay, and we think this product as kind of core, like heart, right, of a human being. If you don't have a heart, nothing is going to be healthy, right? So even if your product is not there, right, marketing team doesn't have a job, right? Operations team doesn't have a job, and customer service doesn't have anything. So I think we should be really thinking on what's the DNA of the company, and different companies have different DNAs and different strengths. We try to make sure our current strength becomes further strength and strength, because that's something we love also doing. Now, I think coming to this, look, my first view is always to build a profitable company, and ideally never to rely on VCs. Okay, so which is something, as of now, Betterhalf has raised roughly about $5 million or so. It's mostly, right, founders actually are here, that's deciding everything, right, and which is great. And so is our founder, our investors, right? They're really great participants and partners, of how we are thinking. It's a very good collaborative relationship where they keep on investing. But they also tell us, don't build for us. We also tell them, I'm not building for you. I think here is very simple. I'm focused on users, number one, employees, possibly number two, third is P&L. And that's exactly three things that I have job to do. If you ask me, do I have a fourth job within Betterhalf? The answer is no. Do I do anything outside Betterhalf? The answer is no. So, and that's something happens with both the founders, okay, of Betterhalf, and we tend to get good people and good talent because of that. Now, I would say, did you optimize for VCs? Here's a fact: there is not a single VC, a recognized VC or a partner, who has not said no to Betterhalf in the last 4 years. So everybody kind of like we know them, and there's always feedback. But look, they have their own views, we have our own views, and we keep on operating, and we think we're going to keep partnering, okay, with them. So I think we do ask for certain data points and validations that, hey, if you're building a product in this direction, is this something would have interest to you? Is there something, numbers or particular numbers or traction that we'll be looking for? Is this something? As of now, these are good signals for us to operate. do we really think very deeply about this? No, these are good signals, but I think this really helps the team that, okay, hey, the market would validate us in this way for our next rounds. Best case, we don't have to raise. Okay, so you just keep thinking on unit economics and profits, because look, 5 years from now, any company is going to be measured on their cash flow. So I tell to the team, when something is going to be true 5 years from now, why not you make it true now? And you operate with this kind of mentality. So we don't do premature scaling because an investor asked. We tell them, sorry, that we do not think that's the right way at this stage. And they're okay as long as we have a response to that. Okay. We do not burn crazy money just because we have cash in our bank account. We said, hey, had we bootstrapped, would we have designed this company like this? So I think we think about, my focus is only going to be mostly users and employees. And I think I don't really, to be very frank, focus too much on investors. If I think I'm doing a good job over here and the product is scaling nicely, and eventually I think the first core metric is, I think, revenues, I think naturally anybody would want to partner rather than designing something, okay, for I think a great set of investors that we have.
No, that's great. Like you correctly said, I feel like, and firstly, your kudos, right? You're blessed to have a great set of investors who are essentially evangelists, right? They're with you because of you, right? Not because of them. So it kind of behooves them
Oh,
to
it's actually
follow
it's
your
it's
signal.
it's both ways actually. So look, they have backed us in say when we were not really growing that fast or
Of
something,
course, of course.
and it's not, they were patient, right? And that's why it's a team. We're talking about partnership. So and then
Right,
some of these people. Okay, so here's something. Does Betterhalf as advisors? Okay, contextual answer is no, because all of them are investors and then they become advisors. And that's what doesn't
right,
happen. Nobody comes in advisors who said, hey, we have invested, over time we build a relationship, and then they start offering certain skill sets. One example, right?
right,
No broker, all three founders are investors. One of the founders, the chief business officer, sort of, is heavily involved. Same thing, right? We have folks from Facebook or Apple on tech side. We have somebody from Stanford University on AI side. These people, some of them did start with advising, but eventually they invest. Right now, everybody's invested from advisor. Somebody at Singapore who has taken 3 pre-seed companies to Series C. They're highly involved. And that's what we like, as a team, because they genuinely want us to do well, and we want ourselves and our employees to do well. And we think if we do it, and if all of us, I'll tell it, all of us, if we focus on users, I don't think we have to focus on anything else. Everything is a byproduct, which I think it's a fairly solvable problem. The first is a way extremely complex and the hardest problem to solve.
No, that's great. I mean, like you said, right? It's great that you have people who are backing you and who believe in the product more than anything, right? But
Yes.
how does one go about essentially making these moves, right? These strategic kind of moves, getting people on board, building those network effects of evangelists, right? For all the people listening in, uh, how like it's not, you don't always have access to people who,
Hmm.
such luminaries in the field. Better half is testament to the fact that if you're good, if, like you said, you focus on core product market fit and the essence of what you are and what keeps you going, those people come to you, right? So kind of walk us through how you went about building these
It's
relationships.
actually, yeah. So one is organic, other is inorganic ways. So many times, actually, it was our initial days. It was about cold reach outs. So we just reach out, talk to people. Eventually, they will invest, and at some point, we'll talk to them more, and then we'll say, "Hey, you have this skill. Hey, I need this. Could you help us with that?" And then this kept on happening for the first 2 years. And then eventually it became a structure that, hey, I need you to help us on a weekly basis. And then, hey, there's a monthly sounding board. So all main folks actually come in where we actually discuss the progress on a monthly basis. And this became now actually, wait, this been a year we are doing this. So the way our formal boards are run, even though better half, it's today that we don't have a formal board, it's Rahul and me, but we operate like a formal board, still at a pre-series stage, because we have set of our investors who are partnering with us, and we're generally pretty excited to help us. So I would say for anyone, I would say thinking of this: if you focus your core on product number one, let's see, even if it's an MPV build it, you will see there will be some evangelists. So keep talking to users more and more. Then you see if you want to figure out some advisors, think into anybody who had a similar experience. Maybe you are facing problems within tech or product, right, or marketing or something, start reaching out to them. Generally, people are quite responsive, and they generally give a call, just to share. It's very low time commitment, right? And then what happens organically, you will see some people will really be excited about what you're doing. And I think those are people that you should touch upon. Eventually, I think the stage that we have just started experiencing. So I'll tell you, somebody offered to invest and we're accepting. Uh, so lately it started happening in the last few months. Somebody I knew, right, from industry for 12 years. And this is organic, right? I'm posting on LinkedIn. Somebody says, all entrepreneurs, like, write it down, how you're thinking on revenues. And I'm like, I'm going to write it down. And then I start saying, hey, I'm encouraging other entrepreneurs, please write it down. Okay, hey, let's not hide something, right? How the company runs. And this person reached out and said, you are the only one who responded. So he said, you know what? Hey, I want to write a check. I have not been able to accept it, considering that we are quite closed. But at least this was good. That hey, so this is organic. The next time when we announced our pre-Series A round, one of my undergrad friends actually sent me a congratulatory message, and we started talking. And then we said, hey, and he said, I want to invest. And I said, I need your help into building this. And he said, okay, now something will work. So you see, I didn't reach out, okay, in these cases. So I think if you're sharing the vision, and if you're reaching to some kind of like not just users, but some set of people who have done certain skill sets and who are good at it, generally they're going to be helpful. And over time, as the company becomes kind of like as a product becomes well known, you will see this organic reach that will be coming on. And I think everybody should be actually doing that faster, where you have core set of people talking to you. You said, hey, I want to partner, and those are people you should be really taking seriously.
No, that's great. Like you said, right? You figure out those small target groups of people who can give you. It's a symbiotic relationship, of course, but people who can are of strategic importance, and then that snowball effect kind of becomes organic, right? Eventually, people reach out to you directly, so that's great. It's good to have that validation from people, right? I'm sure it's a great feeling when, like you said, old colleagues reach out to kind of reinvest, right, with you. I'm sure it's a good feeling. And speaking of kind of good feeling, I figured we can switch gears a little, right? So you've had an extremely kind of rewarding journey, of course, better half aside, with all the work you've done, your career so far, the institutions you've been a part of, the work you've done. But to kind of switch gears to better half specifically,
Mm-hmm.
uh, I'm sure a whole lot of your day will be with user retention cohorts and ARPU and things like that. But if we kind of and of course you're looking at your core proposition, right? But if we take you back a little earlier to the early days of Betterhalf, right? I'm sure even 10 users, right, would have made a huge difference to you. It would have been it would have changed how you perceive yourself and your proposition, of course, right? Because it's validated learnings from the market. So can you talk me through that feeling, how that felt initially when you put your product out, you're in beta, you've opened it out a little bit, and just generally people are coming back to you, responding with the product and things like that?
Yeah, so let me actually correct, right? So I think what sounds like, okay, hey, Pawan is doing everything within Betterhalf. Okay, the answer is no. Uh, Actually, it's a very shared responsibility, right? So within, I think, tech and product, right? So Rahul, my co-founder, practically owns it. We have an awesome and I think super awesome like engineering team and product and design team and a QA team. He does a great job on that, right? And so I tell it, right? I just want to support that, right? It's something, and it's very shared within my team, right? Marketing and customer success, ops. I want to support that, and then jointly we come together, for a shared, company goal. So it can't, kind of like, heavy lifting a mountain by alone. Actually, it's practically impossible. The best is shared, and we tell it, within the company, it has to be shared. Now, coming to this, I used to do a part of it, right? 3 years back or something. I did an okay job, okay, on this. But look, it even went to a stage that our team was kind of like leaving at that point. I said, hey, there's no prototype, no users, right? Naturally, there's nothing, right? No growth is real. But I think when the first, so what we did, we launched, I think it was Betterhalf.live, and then we transitioned to Betterhalf.ai. Then we launched a talk button, right? So which is talk means in a chat, right? And then you start talking to users. I think that's when you really felt pretty good. And eventually the talk to CEO feature was actually like launched, which is anybody within the world can talk to us. And it's, if not, right, I would have done, if not 1,000 calls or so, right, with something. Having that pulse is very, very important, because when people talk to us, they share good things, they share concerns. But what happens? Nobody badmouth, and they eventually become fans of the product, and some of them starts loving. So they see that Betterhalf seems to be the company that has users, and this company is super close. So that's what we want. So I think many times we forget this, right? As you become mid-size or larger, obviously we are, let's say a year or two will become a mid-size company. But I think we tend to forget whom we are building it for, right? So I think I want to focus on this. Now, coming to this, Rahul and my team is actually, I think they're quite good. Nitin Kamath says, right, when you have a product team and good team, right, they're X-Men. If you can't become X-Men, just become friends of it, right? So friends of them. So I choose that. And this is Mark Cuban also said this. Look, there's 1% of these people, right, who are just awesomely great engineers and these are architects or something. Kind of like he realized he can never be that. So then he was like, okay, if you can't become that 1% of creators of this world, who are mainly engineers, then at least be the 1% of that 99% who could be part and friends with them. So I think that's something I choose to do that. And like, okay, guys, look, I can't architect this. I can't invent this, but definitely have a certain ideation and certain pulse and certain information within the market. And I think we should do that. Do you guys like feel aligned? Once they feel aligned, like, how can I help you, right? And then they see, okay, hey, I'm also getting supported. So it's both ways, right? And then you have architects and you have inventors. So kind of like I'll think on, right? I'll love to keep inventing new things, but obviously, these are partners to us that who helps us invent new things. Betterhalf will think about this.
Like you said, it's more than just chasing the numbers, which a lot of people get lost, in the woods, so to speak, especially in this venture capital kind of race. Is just is sometimes you lose the plot, right, without focusing on differentiated product and your core competency. And that brings me to what you just mentioned, right? It's like you said, if you can't be an part of the X-Men, you're friends with the X-Men. That's great, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's essentially ties in with the old adage, right? That you're the average of the seven people around you, right? So you better surround yourself with seven people who are unique and contribute to your skill set, have complementary skill sets in many cases that you don't. And I'm glad that you kind of gotten to that. But as a
Do
group, like
do
yeah,
remember, I think this point that those seven people are also going to evaluate you. That
of
if so
course
I
we
think
have
you
to
should
bring
be
something to the table.
so I think you should think on right. If you
Yeah.
let's see if you have certain, you always need this complementary folks, right? To help, right? So which is because it's so hard sometimes to pull things up, especially in early stage. So if a plus person is there, which generally it's harder to find, they're going to evaluate you. Okay, so it's both
Yeah.
ways. But let's see if you bring one A plus, most likely you're bringing another A plus. And one by one, if you have core set of folks that's A plus, so I think there are many blocks about this, right? A plus bring A plus, A plus bring A plus, A plus bring A plus. If you hire A brings B, B brings C, C brings D, and the company dies. Okay, and then we deal with it. Okay, that's reality. Okay.
Yeah, no, that's right. I feel like attracts like also, right? So, and in many cases, sometimes someone who's an A plus at a particular thing isn't necessarily an A plus at another thing. We don't have to be too
Yes.
hard on an A plus, saying you have to be an A plus across the board, right? So, very interesting how you kind of think of it. That's great learnings, right? But to kind of go zoom in a little bit on what you said, right? You essentially have to focus on who your consumer is, who you're building your product for. So who is the archetype, sort of the quintessential better half consumer, if I may?
Uh, yeah. So I think I would say from this. This is from a market point of view. If we see about 10 million users today, about between 10 to 15 million users use matrimony sites. Uh, okay, and these products were designed for parents roughly 15, 20 years back, right? That's maybe some of them has actually completed 22 years now or so. Um, Now, this was designed. You come here, create your bio data, or profile, share numbers. So we think, and within these products, about 30-40% of users are the urban Indians, okay, who are like, I want to find the partner for myself. I do not want to go through, this hassle of right parents discussion and relatives and brother and siblings is too hard to navigate. And then, hey, I have certain interests, which is not just religion or caste, but hey, maybe I like eating pizza, or I'm a health freak. I like show this on Netflix, or hey, I like tea over coffee. And there's certain interests. Maybe some people like reading. Some people have certain industries, right? Preference. So this need is very unique, to urban Indians. So what happens? There is a lot of friction that, okay, this product is just not meant for me. So what happened? Betterhalf designed a clean product for these urban Indians, giving them speed, first of all. One click matching, and you start seeing your matches. So no form filling, number one. Number two, we said this network, it's only you, so men and women, serious about marriage, higher age group, typically our most age group is between 27 to 32. But we do tell it, right? Users between 25 to 35 also use the product. So we said, hey, the need is marriage, but look, you are talking directly to females, females are talking to males. And this is the purpose, the clear intent is marriage. So they like that. Okay. And the third, I said the matching. So we not only match you on religion or community or language, which we think that's a need, and we appreciate that. But I think more than that, they are matched on their dimensions of their family, their time to settle down, their travel, their humor, their romance. I think there are 10 dimensions that's already live, and it's going to become more and more advanced. So they see a very cleanly designed product, mobile focused product today, and that gives them control and speed, to find their partners. So this is whom we are designing it for. Half of our users typically earn well. These are mainly in top 20, top 30 cities of India. And I think our ambition is for the top 50 cities of India and NRIs, we want anybody, let's say you, me, people in our similar age group, our friends. If you're looking for marriage, looking to settle down in a year or two, we would want you to consider Betterhalf as the number one and a clear choice for you.
No, that's great. I guess to kind of summarize, and pardon me if I'm putting the cart before the horse, so to speak, but Better Half is operates in that confluence of it's between the spectrum, right? It's not
Yeah.
very formal kind of matrimonial app, and it's not too casual, right? So
Yes.
you're a
Yeah.
little bottom of the funnel, so to speak, right? You figured out validated kind of users. You know that these are people who are serious, looking to find like-minded individuals, right? Am I right to assume that?
That is correct. That is correct.
Sure. So an extension of that would be I've heard through the grapevine that Pawan found himself his better half on Better Half as well, right? So
Yeah.
could you walk me through that story as well? It's very interesting.
Yeah, I don't share much. I think there is a blog as well. So we started talking for a month, and then our families got involved very early. So my fiance then was a chartered accountant. I think went to ISB Hyderabad for finance, and she's a finance manager. Is one of the good companies. He likes working there. So then 6 months back, I think the month of June, December of last year, we got married, and obviously engagement and
Excellent.
that got delayed. After a year, my wedding was planned, and then Corona. So I think then this wedding got
Yeah,
delayed.
yeah.
But I think this is quite peaceful, and so more than me, right? He just keeps checking our Instagram and some of the things that we do. So I come to know
Yeah,
later
yeah.
about what my team is doing. I said, "Hey, look, your team is doing this." I said, "Okay, okay, let me talk to you." So I think these are kind of like I think good stuff. But I think we fairly enjoy. Now we have a pretty much a good family relationship. We're married. So I think so it's pretty good.
Excellent. No, congratulations. I mean, what better kind of one line, to sell your product and yourself, right? That I use it. I'm a great user. I'm a success story of my own product. You're an evangelist by yourself, by
It
use.
is.
So
It
great
is. It
use
is.
case, right? So that's
Yeah,
great,
I'll
of
tell you.
course.
And more than that, half of our employees and team members, right? They use Betterhalf as well.
So in closing, my the last question I kind of had is you mentioned
Sure.
the better half kind of universe, so to speak, where you want to play a very vital role in marriages, so to speak, just the whole marriage ecosystem, right? But because, like you said, it's a very in terms of return on investment, it's probably the best product, right? It's enduring, it lasts your lifetime, right?
It's
So
real,
so
right?
in
Maybe you
yeah,
saved a
yeah, yeah,
transaction fee on a credit or whatever, maybe a debit card or a bank or something, right? I'm saying
yeah.
that's fine, but here people feel lonely at times. There's anxiety, there's frustration, right? I'm saying, look, I want to do well on your professional world, but if there is personal world, this is something we want to impact. So that space
Right.
is where we want to come in and come as a friend, come with a product, come with a team, and keep asking you, how can we help? How can we help? And I think if you look better, have the good analogy, it's like calm product, right? Or it's like headspace. Like those are directions that we enjoy. That okay, if there's some change that we have done, and people go through partner search experience, even their behavior change. Ask your friends, right? Everybody look for finding the best, and when they don't find, they come to reality, and then they were like, hey, there's something that's actually important, and those are people actually find some great partners. So over time, I see that this is looks like a personal transformation to me. And then our stand is sorry, 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 because yes, it's hard problem, and we understand your pains because it's not you, anybody, most of our team actually who talks to you actually has gone through it. That's why we hire. And then I'm like, hey, it's not the company that's talking to you. It's a friend, it's a user who's talking to you, who has been in your shoes. And they like us because there's somebody's talking to them. And then after that, we say, hey, we do know it's a long problem and something. Keep your hold on, right? Just keep looking. And then yes, Betterhalf is giving you a significant number of profiles. Today, what I can see from the industry benchmarks, per user number of connections per month is actually highest on Betterhalf. Per user number of response is actually highest. So users tell us these products, I did not get a match. These products, I got a match, but nobody responded. And I said, Betterhalf people respond. And I said, great, this is something we're doing it. Now you feel a comfort, right? Especially at COVID or something. Now you feel there's a sense of companion. And as things open up over the next few months, these things will transpire from a virtual meetings, right, to some real meetings, and go and drink some awesome coffee. And people said that even if my date goes wrong, at least I want to have some great coffee, and that's something I'm excited about. So.
Yeah, no, of course. I mean, yeah, just great, very. In closing, I'd like to congratulate you. Right, it's a very noble issue, so to speak, or a noble problem that you're trying to address, and more than these vanity metrics, it's engagement, right? Validated engagement that you guys have kind of found, right? And that's your product market fit. So all the very best, Pawan, and congratulations. I'm sure you guys will go a very, very long way, and I'm extremely excited to kind of chart this journey and see where Better Half goes.
Yeah, I think I'm equally excited. This was a great conversation and something. More than happy to keep doing this, and I hope some of this knowledge actually could be helpful to other entrepreneurs.